I'm Julie Baker, and you're watching GVTV News.
Thanks, Julie. And I'm Randy Hansen. In today's World News Stories, hundreds of thousands protest under the world in solidarity with Occupy Wall Street movement. And U.S. protest departments arrest hundreds in demonstrations inspired by Occupy Wall Street. And hundreds of Kenyan troops, backed by tanks, helicopters, invade Somalia. And Obama deploys troops to Africa to fight Lord's Resistance Army in Uganda. And U.S. intensifies drone war in Yemen, carrying out 5 strikes in one day. An Obama administration cuts long-term home care program for elderly and disabled. And in Alabama, a federal court blocks elements of controversial anti-immigrant law. An Israeli peace group condemns government plans for Jerusalem settlement expansion. And longtime Egyptian opposition leader Ayman Noor barred from presidential election. And tens of thousands gather in Washington, D.C. for Martin Luther King Jr. National Memorial dedication. And Native American elder, activist Eloise Coble dies at 65. But before these stories, GVTV News would like to thank one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. In today's first world news story, hundreds of thousands of protesters took to the streets Saturday, an October 15th global day of rage inspired by the Occupy Wall Street encampment. Protests reportedly took place in 1,500 cities worldwide, including 100 cities in the United States. The day's largest protest took place in Italy, where more than 200,000 took to the streets in Rome. While the protests were peaceful around the globe, in Rome, some people set cars ablaze and broke the windows of banks and shops, sparking the country's worst riots in a decade. News reports said that some of the 12 arrested for riots were believed to belong to right-wing soccer fan groups, while others were linked to anarchist groups. In Britain, thousands of protesters marched on London Stock Exchange. Here in the United States, police arrested hundreds of people over the weekend at demonstrations and occupations inspired by Occupy Wall Street, which began a month ago today, or actually yesterday, in New York City's financial district. In Illinois, police arrested 175 Occupy Chicago protesters after they refused to leave Grant Park, site of President Obama's election night victory rally. In Arizona, nearly 100 were arrested in Occupy protests in Phoenix and Tucson. 19 members of Occupy Raleigh in North Carolina were arrested with trespassing for refusing to leave the state capitol grounds, and 24 protesters were arrested at Occupy Denver. In a major development from Africa, hundreds of Kenyan troops backed by tanks, helicopters, and gunships have invaded southern Somalia in Kenya's largest military operation in years. The move comes as Kenya declared war on the Somalia militant group Al-Shabaab. There are reports warplanes have already carried out airstrikes on Shabaab strongholds in southern Somalia. Kenya has blamed Shabaab for a recent string of kidnappings of Europeans in Kenya. And President Obama has deployed about 100 combat-equipped U.S. forces, including special operation personnel, to Central Africa to help fight against Uganda's renegade Lord Resistance Army and its leader, Joseph Kony. In a letter to U.S. congressional leaders, Obama wrote, "I have authorized a small number of combat-equipped U.S. forces to deploy to Central Africa to provide assistance to regional forces that were working towards the removal of Joseph Kony from the battlefield. The 100 troops, primarily U.S. Special Operations Forces, will assist forces from Uganda, South Sudan, and Central African Republic and the Dominican Republic of Congo." Great group there. The United States is intensifying its drone war in Yemen. On Friday, the United States carried out at least 5 drone strikes targeting members of Al-Qaeda Yemeni branch. 9 people were reportedly killed, including Abu Rahman al-Awlaki, a 21-year-old son of Anwar al-Awlaki, the U.S.-born cleric who was assassinated in a separate U.S. drone strike last month. Meanwhile, anti-government protesters in Yemen are continuing to come under attack by forces allied to President Ali Abdullah Saleh. At least 13 demonstrators have been killed since Sunday. Guardian reports protesters are writing their names across their chests for identification in case they are killed in anti-Saleh marches. The Obama administration has announced it is pulling the plug on a long-term home care program, including in the 2010 Health Care Reform Law. Community Living Assistance Services and Supports, or CLASS, program was designed to give the disabled and elderly cash to receive care at home instead of usually more expensive institutional care. The program was co-authored by the late Senator Edward Kennedy and Democratic Representative Frank Pallone of New Jersey. Pallone criticized the Obama administration's decision, saying, "While we are fighting so hard against Republican attempts to cut Medicaid, abandoning the CLASS Act is the wrong decision. Soon enough, those in need will have nowhere to go for long-term care." In news from Alabama, federal court's appeal has blocked enforcement of parts of the state's controversial anti-immigrant law that has already forced thousands of undocumented immigrants, primarily Latino, to flee the state. One temporarily blocked provision allowed state and local officials to check the immigration status of public school students. Why not? Israeli group Peace Now has condemned a plan for Israel's government to build more than 2,600 housing units in a new urban settlement in Jerusalem. Peace Now group said the plan was approved last week by a municipal committee, which had given the go-ahead for construction on the site. Haggit Afran is a director of the Settlement Watch at Peace Now and said the plan is to build another new Israeli settlement in East Jerusalem for the first time since the 90s, when they built Har Homa. And this specific plan, it is implemented, it might destroy the possibility of two-state solution and land swap. And long-time Egyptian opposition leader Aman Noor has been barred from running in Egypt's upcoming presidential election expected to take place in 2013. A Cairo court ruled him ineligible because of a controversial forgery conviction. Noor was charged with the crime in 2005 ahead of his run against former Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak. Pro-democracy activists have criticized the exclusion of Noor at a time when former members of Mubarak's National Democratic Party have been allowed to register unimpeded for parliamentary elections. Tens of thousands gathered on Sunday for the dedication of the new Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. National Memorial in Washington, D.C. Speakers included members of the King family, veterans of the civil rights movement, and President Obama. President Obama said, It is right for us to celebrate Dr. King's marvelous oratory, but it is worth remembering that progress did not come from words alone. Progress was hard. Progress was purchased through enduring the smack of billy clubs and the blast of fire hoses. It was bought with days in jail cells and nights and bomb threats. For every victory during the height of the civil rights movement, there were setbacks and there were defeats. President Obama also referred to the Occupy Wall Street protest during his speech at the MLK National Monument. And on our last world story today, Native American elder and activist Eloise Coble has died at the age of 65, member of the Blackfoot Nation. She was the lead plaintiff in the landmark 1996 lawsuit claiming claimed in the U.S. Well, that's all I had for. That's all we had today. That's it for our world news. Sorry for the short ending on that.
Soundcheck Music Center, the Rock and Roll Connection. We have guitars, amps, drum equipment, sound accessories, lessons, and repairs. We are located at 671 Maltman Drive, Grass Valley. 530-272-7236, open 7 days a week.
That's right, it's time for the police blotter, and pictures in the blotter not from these actual events, but used for visual aid only. Grass Valley Police Department, on Friday, 8:36 a.m., two vehicles collided near a business on Railroad Avenue. No injuries were reported. 8:48 a.m., caller from 100 block of Scotch Pines reported a theft the previous afternoon of jewelry and $1,400 in cash. And 10:52 a.m., police arrested a Grass Valley man at a business on a parole warrant for drug violations. He was booked on suspicion of being under the influence of a controlled substance and having paraphernalia, and held in lieu of a $1,000 bail. At 12:35 p.m., a woman from Horizon Circle reported a man who had assaulted her in July was just released from prison for the crime. She was afraid he would attempt to retaliate. At 2:26 p.m., a man from business 900 block of Plaza Drive reported he was assaulted by another man. The alleged assailant was behind a business and appeared to be attempting entry into vehicles. Police arrested and booked a Nevada City man into Nevada County Jail on suspicion of damaging a wireless communication device. He was released on a $750 bail. At 6:06 p.m., a caller from Freeman Lane near Mill Street reported a man driving a vehicle and assaulting a woman passenger who had been screaming earlier in front of a nearby business. The vehicle drove into county jurisdiction, and the Nevada County Sheriff's Office would follow up. At 6:42 p.m., caller from 200 block of Lyson Place reported more lawn decorations were stolen from her front yard. At 9:37 p.m., a man, police department lobby, who was bleeding reported having been attacked by 4 people, including a parolee at the homeless camp off Bennett Street. At 9:45 p.m., police arrested a Grass Valley man on suspicion of public drunkenness on 100 block of South Auburn Street. He was released on a $750 bail. 10:11 p.m., police contacted 4 men and a teenage girl on 100 block of Neal Street. They issued a citation to one of the men for multiple code violations. They also contacted the girl's parents, who asked that the other men bring her home. And Saturday, 1:43 a.m., an officer responded to an alarm sounding at a business on Freeman Lane. An employee arrived and the inside and outside were checked, but all was secure. A newspaper was near the front entrance and may have triggered the alarm. 2:12 a.m., a caller from 500 block of South Auburn Street reported teenagers in the street playing football. An officer contacted the teens who admitted playing football. They were advised to quit for the night. Can't play football, that's a bad thing to do. 12:24 p.m., caller from 100 block of Mill Street reported man was urinating in South Church Street parking lot. 1:55 p.m., an employee at a business at 800 block of Sutton Way reported a woman who had been at a food bar that day before had returned and was eating olives and putting her hands in the soap. She left before officers arrived. At 3:58 p.m., a woman reported being involved in a traffic accident on McKnight Way. Everything was okay. At 5:31 p.m., a caller reported a woman was passed out on the lawn at 400 block of Brunswick Road, and alcohol bottles were laying next to her. At 7:04 p.m., a caller from a business reported a man was extremely drunk and was lying in the street. Police arrested the man, who was booked into jail. 11:31 p.m., police cited a man in Sierra College Drive for driving on a suspended license. His vehicle was towed. In Nevada County Sheriff's Office on Friday, 8:38 a.m., a caller from 12,000 block of Alta Sierra Drive reported a power pole on fire. Cow fire was alerted. At 9:39 a.m., a caller from Lime Kiln at Wolf Roads reported a bull in the road. At 1:19 p.m., deputies arrested a Grass Valley woman on Highway 49 at La Barre Meadows Road on a warrant. She was booked into jail on suspicion of violating probation and failing to appear, with bail set at $10,000. At 1:39 p.m., a caller reported theft of a forklift battery and 25 gallons of fuel on Highway 20 on-ramp to Interstate 80. At 3:06 p.m., a caller from 12,000 block of South Mac Road reported a woman and a man with a rifle in his backyard. People were after a skunk in the yard. Stole one of their jars. 5:17 p.m., a caller from 18,000 block of Lake Forest Drive reported a girl caused an argument with the family, tried to hit them, then ran off. At 5 p.m., an assault was reported at Tyler Foot Crossroads and Black Sands Mines Roads. The man ran off when asked whether he needed medical attention. At 7:23 p.m., a woman from Mystic Mine Road at Wahoo Lane reported a neighbor was burning marijuana in a burn pile. At 7:45 p.m., a woman reported being surrounded by a pack of dogs at a business 29,000 block Highway 49. They jumped on her, but did not bite, and they left claw marks on her truck. And Saturday, 12:38 a.m., caller from business 10,000 block Combe Road reported theft of 2 18 packs of beer. 2:30 a.m., caller reported a vehicle hit a tree on Dog Bar at Wheeler Anchor Roads. The driver left on foot. California Highway Patrol responded. At 7:46 a.m., an accident was reported Highway 20 at Bowman Lake Road. CAL FIRE was alerted. At 12:26 p.m., a woman from 11,000 block of Torrey Pines Drive reported the theft of a log splitter and a trailer from her backyard. At 4:39 p.m., a man from 18,000 block of Hunt Creek Road reported a cow on his property was shot. At 5:50 p.m., a man from 13,000 block of Rough and Ready Highway reported 2 people on his property were wearing full camouflage gear and face masks, but had no weapons. He said marijuana is growing in the area. And Sunday, 12:08 a.m., a deputy responded to a complaint of a loud party on 25,000 block of Long Court and found underage people drinking alcohol. The Nevada City Police Department on Friday, 4:40 p.m., a man from 400 block of Nimrod Street reported he was assaulted on a nearby trail. A man came running after him saying he was on his private property and knocked him down and hit him several times. And Saturday, 4:24 p.m., a woman from 200 block of American Hill Road was stuck on a roof after a ladder fell. And 6 p.m., people who appeared to be using drugs were screaming at others walking by the boardwalk on Commercial Street. At 12:36 p.m., police arrested a Grass Valley man on suspicion of public drunkenness. He was booked and released on $750 bail. At 7:23 p.m., police booked a Nevada City man after arresting him on the 200 block of B Street. He was being held in lieu of $25,000 bail on suspicion of second-degree burglary and violation on order against domestic violence. And that's it today for The Blotter. And now another thanks to one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. In today's local news headlines, $35,000 bail set for pot for meth case suspect. And Nevada City man arrested on DUI, child endangerment charges also. And pair of foul mouths leads to citizen's arrest. In the first local story written by Trina Kleist of the Union, a Lathrop man is being held in Nevada County Jail in lieu of a $35,000 bail on suspicion of criminal conspiracy and other charges in connection with a pot for meth scheme. Christian Geronimo Navarro, 26, gave his occupation as a carpenter when booked into jail early Saturday by the county deputy sheriffs on 6 felonies: suspicion of criminal conspiracy, possession of narcotic, having a controlled substance for sale, transporting a controlled substance, having a controlled substance, and building a hidden compartment to conceal drugs. Jail records show. Navarro, a Mexican citizen, also was booked on suspicion of driving on a suspended license, a misdemeanor. Leslie Edward Schofield, 31, of Grass Valley, was booked on Friday evening on suspicion of felony criminal conspiracy. Schofield, who gave his occupation as disabled, was released on a $10,000 bail, according to jail records. Both were arrested Friday at the same address, Rough and Ready Highway. Members of the Nevada County Narcotics Task Force went to a residence on the 10,000 block of Rough and Ready Road on Friday to do a compliance check after spotting the marijuana grow during a helicopter flyover several months ago, said a task force spokesman. Schofield answered the door. Deputies allegedly found cash, payo sheets, 10 pounds of processed marijuana, an active indoor growing operation, and signs of a previous outdoor pot farm. While deputies were at the scene, Navarro, 26, pulled into the driveway and allegedly told deputies he was there to buy marijuana. We searched his vehicle and found a hidden compartment in the dash with more than a pound of meth and more than $5,000 in cash, task force spokesman said. The amount of meth, after being cut and resold, could have generated more than $250,000, a spokesperson noted. Nevada City man was arrested on suspicion of driving under the influence and child endangerment after he crashed his SUV into a tree. Sean Leonard Karstens, 31, was driving a Cadillac Escalade at about 11:20 a.m. Thursday on Clipper Creek Road when he made an unsafe turning movement, left the road and hit a tree, said California Highway Patrol Officer Heather Blancart. The investigating officer determined Karstens allegedly was under the influence of a controlled substance. There was a 7-year-old child in the vehicle who was uninjured. Karstens allegedly was combative before being taken into custody. He sustained a cut on his head, but it is not clear whether that was due to the accident or the arrest. He was booked into county jail on suspicion of child endangerment, driving under the influence, being under the influence of a controlled substance, possession of a controlled substance without a prescription, and driving without a license. He was released on a $35,588 bail. And in our last story, written by Katrina Kleist of the Union, neighbors in Grass Valley finally had it with 2 vulgar tenants and asked that they be arrested. Started when an apartment manager reported she was trying to serve eviction papers on the tenants at 4:49 p.m. Friday on the 300 block of Pleasant Street, near downtown. One of the tenants, a man, refused the papers, made threats, and argued loudly, according to a dispatch report from the Grass Valley Police Department. The man and the other tenant, a woman, stood in the parking lot and continued to be so loud and argumentative that the manager called police. Sergeant Steve Johnson said Sunday. An officer arrived and he asked the tenants to return to their apartments so the matter could be sorted out. Johnson said the tenants continued to shout obscenities from the apartment's balcony. They wouldn't stop despite repeated directions from the officer, Johnson said. They were so vulgar and unceasing. There were children around that a couple of citizens asked if they could be arrested and signed citizen arrest warrants. Police arrested the man and the woman and booked them into jail, both on suspicion of disturbing the peace. They posted bail, jail records show. At noon Saturday, the next day, the manager reported the tenants were back at their apartment and the man was running after her car. Well, I don't know what to tell you. Here's another thanks to an underwriter. GVTV News is going to be covering the Occupy Wall Street, Nevada County that starts tomorrow, October 19th, at the bottom of Commercial Street, Nevada City at about 4 p.m. If you're one of the 99%, then this is your time to stand up and be counted. This is a nonviolent power through peace movement. If you have something to say, then find one of the NCTV reporters with GVTV News and let us tell the people what you say. We will be filming throughout these types of events, and look for Harrison Doctor or Juan Brown or me or a plethora of other reporters. We're going to be covering everything we can. As the news, we try to bring a balanced look, so this is all we are saying at this time. We will see you there if you can make it. Talk to you tomorrow. It should be Tuesday. That's it for local news today. GVTV News would like to thank Associated Press, Reuters, Amy Goodman, the Union, and others for the sourcing of our news, and you for watching. Don't forget, we are broadcast 3 times a day: public access, NCTV, Comcast Cable Channel 11, and suddenly Channel 16 in Truckee and Alta Sierra. 8 a.m., 3 p.m., 7:30 p.m., Monday through Friday, and random Saturday. Other times, well, not necessarily Saturday, because they don't do that lately. But check the website for the schedule. We are streamed daily at NevadaCountyTV.org, video on demand there. Also other websites, GVTV.org and Rural Counties Television Network.ning.com. We're also on Facebook and YouTube and Book TV and iTunes podcast.